So welcome to part 2 of my tutorial. Now that we've completed this little section here, it's now time to add in the spider filter. Now, I found with previous builds that the spiders essentially used to clog up the central fall space where the mobs would come down. Either that or they would simply climb back up the tunnel. So I wanted to try and find a way where I was able to collect the drops from the spiders, but without them simply blocking the tube up as well. After a little bit of experimentation, I came up with this idea. You'll notice that in the center, I've put the two cactus sitting diagonally opposite each other, and then I will put another layer in the opposite corner of exactly the same thing, another two cactus. Because spiders essentially are a 2x2 block, it means that there's never a safe area for them to fall down, and essentially they'll hit the cactus dying, but you'll still get the drops as they'll fall down into the bottom area that we've just created. So that's the cactus spider system in place, and it's now time to start on the actual main water floor. This is actually where the main bulk of the build comes in. We have this floor here, we'll then have the floor that the mobs spawn on, and then we'll have the roof to finally go in place. So I follow a set pattern at this point just to simply give you an outline of exactly how far you need to build. Now you'll notice that I build out 9 blocks, then I build up 1, I build out 8 blocks, and then I build up another one. The final one at the side here that I put on both sides, this is actually going to be our side wall that we will extend up. But as I was explaining earlier, with water, it can only flow up to a maximum of 8 blocks along flat ground. So essentially it will flow for the 7 blocks along the first bit, it will step down 1, and then it will flow for 8 blocks, stopping just before it reaches that center bit. I'm extending each side out here just to give you more of an indication as to exactly how it will be. We will be filling in this area at a later stage, and then have a lot clearer idea as to how the spawner actually works. Again, through lots and lots of trial and error, this is the design I came up with. Essentially, the amount of spawns that you will get in here and the amount of XP that you will gain from it. I was very surprised the first time I tested it, and I hope you are too. So essentially I've extended these out from each 4 sides. Now you obviously don't have to do it this way. You can work on the center bit first, or you can work on building your outer edge first. It's entirely up to you. The reason that I've done it this way is obviously with video limitations, it was easier for me to show you a small section of it being built. So I'm going to finish this corner here. Again, this will be putting in, this will be our edge wall. I'm going to finish this corner here, and then the process will simply be repeated for all 4 corners. And you'll see essentially what is the bulk part of your spawner in place then. So just to fill the floor area in now, obviously because I'm in creative mode, I'm doing it this way just so I can show you an entire corner that's complete. When you come to build this in survival, it's more than likely that you'll actually work on the inner ring or the inner floor bit first, do the step up, and then work on the outer floor and then the final edge wall. I'm simply doing it this way just so I can show you a corner completed and exactly how many blocks it should be. Because with the step up, as I said previously in the video, water can only flow for up to 8 blocks on flat surface. So we have to have 7 blocks, and then the water will drop down on the 8th block, and then the water will travel 8 blocks until it actually reaches the center drop off, and it won't flow any further than that. So essentially any mobs that drop into this area, which we will be flooding with water, will automatically get pushed exactly where we want them to be. The edge wall will actually be extended to a height of 6. That gives us room to put in the spawn floor. We only need the 1. And then to put in the roof, which will go on the top. Again, while you're doing this bit, do light the area, because mobs will spawn in on you while you're building. And the final bit for the corner, and then that's what the corner should look like. Now you will complete this on all 4 of the corners, and you'll see I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means the water will stop exactly at that edge. Okay, so that's now all 4 corners complete, and I've built the outside wall 6 high. Now on the 3rd block up, that's your spawn floor, and the next, that's your ceiling. Remember, keep this area well lit all the time you're building. You don't want mobs blowing you up. So I'll start my first outer ring. This will be 2 blocks wide, and then I'll leave a gap of 2, and then I'll start my next internal ring of 2 blocks as well. I always leave a 2 block gap at least in one area on the spawn floor, so that way spiders won't clog the area up, and they will still be able to fall through and fall into the cactus so I can collect the drops from them. If you only leave a 1 block gap, essentially the spawner will just clog up with spiders, essentially taking up the rest of the spawns, and you don't really want that. Now, because of where the distance is from the floor, the mobs, when they do spawn, will be very active. So essentially they will always spawn in, just take a few steps and fall into the center bit, or into the water that we're going to be placing directly underneath this. I would suggest that you make a room, a little pathway, should I say, that leads out from this spawn level back down to where you're going to be doing the killing. Because essentially when you come to remove the torches at the end, if you don't, the only way that you're going to be able to get out of the spawner is the same way as the mobs. And that can be precarious if you're trying to remove torches at the same time. So essentially take one of the walls out. You can fill it with dirt or replace the blocks afterwards, but have a little path that leads out, and then a set of ladders that essentially lead back down to where we're going to be doing the killing. That way, after you've removed all of the torches, you've then got a nice safe exit out, rather than having to jump into the center and hope you don't die. So for this next bit, we have to create a little drop to take into account the floor dropping by 1 block. You also do this with the roof. When you lay the roof out, you can either take the 1 drop into account while you're doing it, or you can just simply add a block underneath the main roof once you've actually put it in place. That way it ensures that it's only ever 2 blocks high all the way in the spawner. So at this point you have to come out 4 blocks and then down 1 to start your next inner ring. That ensures that the mobs aren't going to get clogged on this inner ring. Right, so this is the mob spawning floor now complete. As you can see, I've not actually joined the outer ring, only simply because I've done this in Creative World, so I don't need to worry about where I'm going to be when the mobs spawn in. I've created a little bit of a step down around the center rings. I've used half blocks just so mobs don't spawn on top, and it's now time to add all of the water in. As I said before, you'll need a lot of buckets, best to create yourself a couple of pools around the inner edges, that way you can keep refilling. But you'll see the whole method behind the mob spawner starting to come in at this point, and why it works so well. If you haven't already, also use this time to fill in the water points down at the bottom, as I'm about to demonstrate. So the mobs will fall into that area, but we also want them to be then pushed from that little area into our killing zone. Again, ensure these areas up here are well lit, because otherwise mobs will spawn. They won't spawn in the water, but if the area is not well lit, they will spawn on these little edges. So that is now all of the water in place. All we essentially need to do is roof it. So the mobs will drop off there and automatically be carried by the flow of the water. At this point they can't get out, there's nowhere for them to go. They just simply get pulled with the current, and then they drop down onto this next section and then into our kill zone, which is here. So what we need to do is just finish the roof. So here we are, you've completed your mob spawner. Roof is now in place, just need to remove our torches. There is the extra level that I've put just underneath the ceiling to ensure that it's only 2 blocks high with inside. Again, when it comes to removing the torches, please be careful, because the mobs will start spawning very quickly. And the last thing you want is mobs blowing up and putting all your hard work to ruin. So we remove our torches. There is our grinder complete. And it's now time to reap the rewards of your build. I have found this gives me exceptional XP. I will put a little video together just to do a 0 to 30 XP, just to see how quick it actually is. But if you like this video and you have found benefit from it, please leave a like. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Time to turn it back to normal, turn it back to survival. It does take obviously a few moments for the mobs to start spawning into the world, because I've just switched it into survival. But if you're actually playing in survival, the mobs will start spawning in a lot quicker for you. So again, as I said, be careful when it comes to taking the torches out. So now we just wait. Where the mobs actually drop and we do the killing, you can get technical with that if you wanted. You could remove the 4 main blocks that are at the bottom, and you could put in some droppers, some hoppers even, connect them to some chests. That way any loot drops essentially get put into chests for you. You could even attach a sorting system to that if you wanted, so that way it all gets sorted out for you. There are many variations that you can do on this, but this is probably the simplified version, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Here.